Hey guys, Icy here with a build video. This is going to be with Volga Volarus, my Argonian Magicka Warden healer that I use in a support role for running down in Imperial Sewers. And let's just jump right into the gear setup. I have a short build video that just goes into detail the exact stuff that I'm running. So I'll make sure I put that in the description. But I think just something to remember is you can run whatever you want as a healer or as a support role. You can heal with any set in the game. I remember talking to somebody and they were running Ancient Dragon Guard, Chokethorn, and Eternal Vigor as their whole support healing set as another warden, and they were still able to get the job done, same as me, no problem. So I thought that was a pretty interesting note. But for me, I like to run Earthcore, Shacklebreaker, and Transmutation. Again, you could run with anything you want. It really doesn't matter. But what you want to bring to the team, that's where the gear sets actually matter. Earthcore, I like it because of the cleanse, especially in PvP. There's a ton of stuff. There's a ton of debuffs being thrown out everywhere. And so having this proc on a member of your team or yourself to give you an instant cleanse on everything, that's pretty awesome, and I like to have that. I do run sturdy on all my pieces because when somebody does jump on you, you're forced onto your back bar, which is your sorting board, and you want to hold block and be able to sustain as much as possible while in that state. And having all sturdy allows you to do that. Shacklebreaker, I like this. It's a pretty good static sustain set. You could probably run Eternal Vigor as well, but I haven't really given that a shot. But I do like the static sets, the static stats that Shacklebreaker provides. And one of the other reasons why I like running Shacklebreaker down in the sewers is because I do swap this out with Imperial Physique. And if you look at the stats, stamina recovery on both, magicka recovery on both, weapon and spell damage on both, and then they both have a line of max stats on the fifth one, where Shacklebreaker is 2k, Imperial Physique is 1k at its base, and then if you have 10k Telvar, it'll multiply that by 6, so giving you 6k across your health, magicka, and stamina. So what I'll often do is, obviously I carry both Imperial Physique and Shacklebreaker with me. I'm normally running Shacklebreaker, and then when I do get 10k, I will swap over to Imperial Physique to get an increase in those buffs. I like to call Shacklebreaker a poor man's Imperial Physique. And the last set is the Transmutation. I like this because of the 1400 crit it gives to myself and the team whenever I'm healing them. And when you're down in PvP, 1400 crit resistance is pretty awesome. And also, since this is where I'm getting majority of my crit resistance, it allows me to run Shacklebreaker down here. If I wasn't running Transmutation, or if somebody in my group wasn't running Transmutation, I don't think I'd be in sturdy with the setup. I'd probably just be running Impen on everything. Jewelry wise, I am running Infused on everything, and for your front bar is the Resto Staff. I am using a weapon damage enchantment and powered obviously for more healing. And the weapon damage enchantment, I like to, you can substitute this with any enchantment that you want. I like the weapon damage enchantment because it will put me over 2000 spell damage, which is pretty good for healing. And after this is my base value, and then the major sorcery coming from the Bull Niche, and then when this procs, it puts me over 2000, and you're light attacking a lot on your front bar. The back bar sorting board, I'm just using the Absorb Stamina enchantment. You could use any enchantment for this one. I don't really find myself light attacking too much, but when I do, it's to get stamina back a little bit more quickly, and I figured why not use a Absorb Stamina enchantment. I was running Weakening, but I didn't really feel like I was using it as much as I should be. Defending and Reinforced just to increase my resistance on the whole set. And of course, Prismatics on the shield and on everything. Let's go to the stats buffed. I'm gonna pop this. So sword board, I'm at 30k, And then front bar on the wrestle staff, I'm at 25k, which I think is pretty good. Recoveries are 2,000, 1,000, and 1,300. And back bar 19, 1,000, 1,000. And then, of course, my max stats are 30, 30, and 20k. When I put this build together, that's usually my, well, not just this build, but on all my support builds for PvP, I try to shoot for a 30, 30, 20 setup as close to that as I can, which is just, 30k Magicka, 30k health, and 20k stamina. I don't always get too close on stamina, because it just depends on what I'm pairing with, whatever it is I'm pairing. So I'll usually settle for 18 if I can't get 20. And recovery wise, I like to have everything at a minimum over 1,000 for that if it's not my primary, and then my primary close to 2,000 as possible. But I'll settle for 16, which is fine, no big deal. Magicka attributes are 64, everything else is 0. And my Mundus Stone is a ritual, just to give me more healing. And the Bewitched Sugar Skulls are my food. Let's see. Alright, skills. Front bar, Illustrious Healing. Love this. This is great, especially when if somebody jumps on you and you're next to a object that you can line of sight around, I'll usually throw this on that and then just run around in a circle, kiting, because usually if it's a tree or a pole, the Illustrious Healing will be big enough to actually surround the whole pole, so then I'll be healing the whole time while I'm trying to kite or line of sight. Fetcher Infection, love this ability. I use this primarily to dot up the bigger mobs, anything with 100k down in the sewers like the Daedroth or the banners, and obviously players because of the minor vulnerability. Race Against Time, I love this over the Falcon Swiftness. Either morph doesn't really matter. If this wasn't in the game, I'd use Evasive Predator 100% because of the minor evasion just for being slotted. But I'll always use Race Against Time because of the remove all snares and immobilizations and grants you immunity to those for 2 seconds. So the reason why I picked this over that, when I was running with a buddy who uses Falcon Swiftness because he doesn't have this, if we're both running side by side and we're being chased by a Zerg and they hit us with some snares, he's going to get CC'd, I'm not. And guess what? Now he's got a dodge roll, break more stamina because we're already sprinting, and now I'm that much further ahead of him, and he'll probably get killed because they'll catch him first before they catch me. Radiating Regeneration, I feel like that's almost just default on every... If you're going to call yourself a healer, you have to have this ability, so I don't think I have to explain that further. Bull Netch, this is a Magicka build, but I'm using the Stamina Netch. In the sewers, you're running, you're sprinting a lot, and the last thing I want is to be out of stamina. And so this is constantly giving me stamina no matter what, even while you're sprinting, and especially when I'm blocking. When you're blocking, you don't regen any stamina, but if you have a Bull Netch on, because it's part of an ability, it will generate stamina for you when you're in a blocking state. And also, it's a free cleanse, which is so good. And whenever I have a debuff on me, I'm using the Surrender add-on, and I have everything turned off. I can just show you that real quick here. Add-ons, nope. Surrender. Yeah, I have everything turned off except for the target debuffs, buffs, and my debuffs. And the display window 3 shows up at the top right here. So I've already trained myself that whenever... I don't have to be looking up here, but when anything does pop up here, I know it's a debuff. So then I'll immediately flip to my front bar and hit the cleanse. Because while I'm trying to support my team, whether through heals or being aggressive and just making sure a Fetcher Infection is applied, or having Mage Sleight active the whole time while we're trying to chase down a Nightblade, I don't want to be burdened with any sort of debuff that's going to make me more vulnerable to an attack or getting killed from somebody else. So whenever I see something up here, I don't have to be looking at it. I just know something pops up there. I immediately hit a cleanse because anything up there is always going to be a debuff on me. Ultimates. Healing Thicket, love this because it's a healing over time when people leave it, and PvP, you're very mobile. If you're not mobile, you're dead. So if you drop this on somebody and they immediately move out, they still have a hot for 4 seconds, and that's really nice to have. Backbar ultimate is permafrost. The other morph is a max Magicka one, and I didn't really think that was too useful for my thing. So I like having the. I think it just increases the snare effect and shield status on stuff. So that's why I choose permafrost. But also the major protection it gives, which I think is just a default on either morph, so it doesn't really matter. And what I usually come across when I'm choosing what ultimates I have in my bar is, when do I use these ultimates? And between permafrost and the healing thicket, I'll usually always engage with the permafrost ulti, and then throughout the fight always use healing thicket, because the healing thicket is only on a 90 ultimate cost, and permafrost is a lot higher. Also, permafrost, if depending on the situation, if we're chasing somebody, I'll probably sit on this until we think an ult up is coming, just to give everybody more defense with that major protection. Expansive Frost Cloak, I'm a team player at heart. I'll always pick anything team oriented or something that will benefit the team over myself, and this is where I think Expansive Frost Cloak comes in. There's a couple guys that are on my list that know when I'm with them, they don't put any sort of major resolve buff on their bar, because I'm going to be providing that for them. And if I can take that burden off them, that allows them to have more sustain in another way. Maybe they can take off Trudons and put something else on, things like that. So if I'm able to relieve a burden so they can become stronger, that's a win in my book. Living Trellis, this is great. Whenever I see somebody low, I usually try to pop this in conjunction with Polar Winds, which is my burst heal. The only bad part about Polar Winds is the 6-meter radius, so you got to be kind of close to people when you're gonna proc this. Radiant Mage Light. This is, again, this whole build setup is for Imperial Sewers. I'm always running Radiant Mage Light because there's always Nightblades running around, and when we do get jumped on by one, this is up immediately, and now the hunter becomes the hunted. And ever since I made this change, we've always caught our Nightblades. I'd say 9 out of 10 times we catch them. And lastly, Shimmering Shield. I didn't have this on my bar initially, but after a while, once I got more comfortable with the build, I did swap the one-handed shield defensive posture. I was using the defensive stance just to give me more bang in my buck when I'm blocking. And Shimmering Shield, whenever we are in a fight or I see a lot of ranged people, I'll always pop Shimmering Shield and keep it active, because it'll absorb 23k worth of projectiles, and also if it does block a projectile, it gives you Magicka back, and it gives you ult gen with a major heroism buff, which is awesome, because the more ult you get, the more you can cast your healing thickets, and the more you can heal your team. Alright, let me check my phone here. CPs. Oh, before I go to CP, flex spots. So the flex spots are Fetcher Infection and Radiant Mage Light. What would you flex that with? I would flex that with, so on Green Balance, Lotus Blossom. I used to think this was somewhat like Blood Altar from the Undaunted skill line, but it turns out it only gives lifesteal to one person in your group, and that kind of sucks. But it also gives you Major Prophecy for 20 seconds, whereas Mage Light only gives you Major Prophecy when you're on this bar. So I'll usually put this on when if we're out in Cyrodiil or something like that. Another thing I'll sub it out for is, I'm just going to find it here, Time Stop, another great ability. If we need more CC in a group fashion, or our leader needs some sort of group stun, I can slot this on without any issues. And then I think the last thing I'll sub this out for is Purge. In Cyrodiil, I usually put in Purge for Fetcher Inflection, just so with all the debuffs coming in and we're running maybe 12, a trial group or 2 in one gigantic group, Purge is super helpful in that case. I think that's everything. Oh yeah, and I'll just cover this in the skill thing here. I'll keep a link for how to max your Legerdemain, but I like to have my locksmithing passive here not blocked, maxed out when I'm down in the sewers because there's a lot of chests that people leave unopened. And with this, I can force the locks open, and for a couple of reasons. One, I'm not slowing down my team. Two, when I open the chest, or if I'm trying to pick it, normally my team, if they're not aware enough, they'll just leave and keep going, not even be none the wiser that I'm picking it, and then I could get jumped and killed, and now I lost half my Telvar. And they're wondering why I'm dead, and I'm wondering why I'm dead. And this, it only takes about 1 second or 2 seconds to pop the chest and collect the stuff, and then you're on your way. So I usually like to open all the chests, so just because it's more Telvar that you're passing out. All right, CPs. So there's a couple ways you can do your CPs. I like to do 6 passives for 45 points in. Some people like to do 4 60s and 130, or they just go past whatever number and they just fit and they just put in whatever they want just because they want certain percentages off some things. I like to do 45 because it gives me just enough, and I'll use Arcanus as an example. 45 gives me 10%. I think 10% is a solid bonus to magic recovery. If I put this to 60, it'll push me up to 12%, and 2% between 10 and 12. Sure, I guess, but if I'm doing 60 points here and 60 points on everything, then I have to put 30 points into a 5th thing, and now I'm missing out on a 6th potential passive that I could be getting. And for me, 10% is perfect. So I just do 10% off on everything. So Warlord, break free is very important PvP. Sprinting, very important when you're down the sewers, because I don't want to be out of stamina. Magicka and stamina recovery, love this. Tumbling, I am a fan of roll dodging. Blocking, you're blocking a lot, so this also helps. This is great to have. You're a healer, first and foremost, so I have this maxed out to maximize my potential for healing done. Increase your critical damage and critical healing magic abilities, 25%, that's awesome. Staff expert, I'm doing a lot of light attacks, heavy attacks on my staff more than my sword and board. And again, I don't put any points in anything else because I'm not trying to do damage. It's not my primary function. Ironclad, very important PvP. Spell resistance, very important in general. Regular resistance, very important for PvP. Quick recovery, very important. I am in 5 heavy, 2 light. It might be 5 heavy, 1-1 with 1 medium, 1 light, but I might change it to all light. We'll see. So 45 here in heavy, and then expert defender. I wasn't aware several months ago that this was even a thing, but when you're playing a ranged support, if you can reduce the damage taken from player light attacks and heavy attacks by almost 25%, bruh, that's awesome. Alright, I think that's everything. Oh, let me just go over my potions here. So you're using the Tri-Stat potion, and with the Argonian passive, you're getting plus 4k onto everything. So I think 11, that's 15k health, and then about 11, 12k Magicka and stamina back. That's freaking phenomenal. Immovability potion, I usually pop this when we're trying to get a res and we're still in a fight. So I'll pop this, give me 10 seconds, I can res somebody up in 4 to 5 seconds with the Battle Resurrection passive. And then I do have another potion for invisibility, just in case we're trying to be zerged down. We're trying to be zerged down in the sewers, and if we know we're running to a dead end, then I'll have this prepared so we can figure out a way to come back to counter the situation. But aside from that, that's pretty much all I got for the build video. Again, you can run anything you want if you want to be a healer, but it just comes down to how do you want to support your team. Do you want to just have regular, sustain, selfish sets to help keep yourself alive and improve your survivability, or do you want to provide even more utility on top of what's in your kit with a gear set that will allow you to do that. Some examples would be obviously Transmutation, Prayer Shawl, Combat Physician, Gossamer, Ebon, Sanctuary. I think the Healing Mage set is the one when you get from Aetherian Archive that reduces weapon and spell damage to enemy players or NPCs, things like that. So, any comments, any questions, feel free to comment below. And till then, I will see you guys on the next one. See ya.